Fellow Southern Cameroonians, revolutionary greetings. I am Tabeyang Response, your Secretary of State for Economy and Finance for the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. I am very humbled and compelled as a duty to come to you today to address the very vexing issues confronting our determination to decolonize and liberate our homeland from the fangs of the Republic of Cameroon. The events of the last few weeks have seriously called into question the direction and survival of our people and revolution. But I strongly believe that collectively, in the spirit of our departed compatriots, these challenges are surmountable, and we have demonstrated our resilience in the face of this barbarity from the regime in Yaoundé. I have to extend my appreciations to my cabinet colleagues for the determination, the sacrifice, and the commitment they offer every day under the able leadership of AP Sako to the people of Ambazonia. I want to salute the extraordinary and fearless courage of our defenders on ground zero. My heart bleeds for our mothers and wives who now dig graves to bury our people in the face of this barbarity from the Republic of Cameroon. I want to thank the Manu community under the able leadership of Dr. Peter Ako, who have offered me unreserved support and a base to anchor during this very difficult time. I also want to extend my appreciations to the Libyalem community for the moral support and the words of encouragement during these very brutal times. I also want to thank all my friends across the globe for the support from ground zero, from Gambia, to encourage me, and who have given me the moral compass and the aptitude to continue with this resistance. It has been a very, very difficult week. I did not in any way anticipate that I was going to be standing here today to address the Ambazonian community at this time. But I think this struggle and this revolution is at a crossroad. And we as a people who understand the need to address the difficulties, the pain and suffering of our people, I think this is the moment we have to stand up and look deep within us to address those issues that have been hindering us for our collective desire to speak with one voice, to speak as one people, and to face this onslaught by the government of Yaoundé as one and indivisible Ambazonians. I didn't come here today to respond to the slanderous statements that were directed towards my person by the untoward and reckless behavior from one of my cabinet colleagues. I think I was brought up better to respect my elders. And I understand and know Secretary Chris Anu is my elder brother. I think it would be a disservice and disrespectful for me to follow him to the gutters in the back and forth kabuki dance that has become the hallmark of this struggle. I give him the respect that he deserves. I can state that Secretary Chris has been doing a fine job irrespective of some of his failings. But it was baffling to me to be awoken as if I was in a trance by the viciousness of the attack towards my person. Utterly careless on all the names that he has associated with Tabeyang Echu. I think my pain and anger is we have decided to turn the pain and suffering of our people into a grandstanding exercise. I think we have to understand that the lives of our people, millions of our people looking up to us, depends on the way we carry ourselves in this struggle as government officials representing the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Before I decided to pick up this presentation this evening, I had a very, very intimate conversation with my wife, who argued that it would be improper for you to go do a presentation on SCBC. That is going to come across as being spiteful of the government-run ABC channel. But I want to make it very clear to Ambazonians to understand that I hold no grudges with ABC TV. I strongly believe that it is my personal choice to not do a presentation in the same TV station that carried out the smear on my person, my name, and family. I think I will be doing myself a disservice to say honestly that I will feel comfortable to do a presentation at this time on ABC TV. I also want to make it very clear that the magnitude of the viciousness that was directed towards my person has gone viral globally. So I needed a platform that I would reach a wider mass of our people across the globe to understand my message and to understand the clarity that it deserves, and to make them understand and give them the assurances that the Secretary of State for Economy and Finance is not corrupt, has not embezzled any money, has not mismanaged any money, and that their State House is doing well under very difficult challenges. When I took this position, I committed and promised to you, the Ambazonian people, that I would be up to the challenges that come along in managing a very complex structure like the Department of Economy and Finance. I want you to bear with me that everything is difficult at conception. Every beginning is always difficult. We face a lot of the challenges within the department. Now, when I came in, there was already a quasi-structure with officials that were serving as a board of directors of Ambazonian Foundation. And I do understand the need for continuity. I decided to continue with these individuals. And within them, there was a treasurer. I want to make it very clear that I, Tabeyang Echu, I am calling on the AP, Dr. Samuel Sako, that I reserve the right to pursue legal action against any detractors that will continue the smear on my person and on my integrity. after the presentation of these facts. There is a lot that is flying all over the place, but within the past week, I have exercised restraint amidst the provocation. I have exercised calm and listen, and I have decided at this time that there is a need to present a report about this struggle and my department to our people. So, fellow Ambazonians, please bear with me. We might be a little bit long, but this is necessary. I want to warn you that this is a very sensitive department in this revolution. The Department of Economy and Finance is the heartbeat of this revolution. And as I promised to you, if there is any whatsoever signs of embezzlement and mismanagement in this department, I would hold myself responsible. And I would present myself to the people of Ambazonia to do whatever they decide. To this, I give you my word. And I'm going to say, read my lips, that under my watch, whatever came into the Department of Economy and Finance will be accounted for to the last dollar. So I have decided to come back to you this evening and speak specifically to some areas of concern. I am going to start with the Treasury. How is the Treasury Department or the Office of the National Treasury set up? When I got into the department, the very first thing I did as the Secretary of State in charge of Economy and Finance was to draft the accounting policies and procedures, laying down a framework on how the department is going or was going to function, clearly specifying the various roles and responsibilities of officials within the department. Within that document that was adopted unanimously by the cabinet of the interim government, I clearly laid down the approval process and the process to request for funding from the Department of Economic and Finance. I also laid down the process that we identify and recognize revenue. And I also laid down the process on how we do our accounts payable as far as our expenditures were concerned. So the very first thing that I would want to explain to you, the Ambazonian people, is the approval process within the government. We decided that each Secretary of State would be our sole contact or their designee from within the department as far as requesting for funds from the department. We provided an invoice requisition form to all the departments. When an invoice is requested to the department, it gets to my desk. If the amount of the requisition is below $2,000, I will review it, approve it, and send it to the treasurer for disbursement. The treasurer also does her own due diligence to make sure that before that money is sent, the individual receiving that money is being contacted. If the amount is above $2,000, I will review the request, forward that to the AP and the AP would append his approval before that invoice is forwarded to the treasury for disbursement. And this is how we have operated for the past 12 months. 98% of the invoices that have been approved in this cabinet have been approved by the AP. And I strongly believe that inasmuch as I keep the records for the Department of Economy and Finance, the Office of the President should also be in keeping of the records of all the approvals that came to his desk and approved and then sent out for disbursement. For our deposits, we do frequent online bank transfers, but all the deposits from our payment platforms, Braintree and PayPal, have been done by the treasurer. As I stand before you today, I have never done any deposits from Braintree or PayPal into our bank accounts. As I earlier indicated, when I got here, the treasurer was already present before my appointment, and I never appointed a new treasurer. So the question is, as it was implied or it was asserted during the unfortunate presentation a week ago, that Secretary Tabeyang doubles as the finance secretary and the treasurer of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. I am going to state before you, without mincing my words, that that is absolutely not true. As a matter of fact, all the department secretaries have dealt with the treasurer. I have decided to keep her anonymous from her own request. But I want to assure you, from AP Sako to Secretary Chris Anu, Secretary Kalesh Bongo, Secretary John Egiawan, all of them have dealt with the treasurer one way or the other during the past 12 months. As a matter of fact, as early as 2 or 3 weeks ago, Secretary Chris Anu was in communication with the treasurer to provide payment for the TV station. So, my fellow citizens, I think I have disproved the claim that I, Tabeyang Response, the Secretary of State for Economy and Finance, doubles as the Finance Secretary and the Treasurer of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. And I'm going to back this up with screenshots of the approval process between myself, AP Sako, and the treasurer. I am also going to substantiate this with screenshots from Secretary Anu with the treasurer. And I am also going to back this up with screenshots within the cabinet with the Chief of Staff knowledgeable that there is a treasurer within this interim government. The next item I'm going to look at is the banking. Who are the signatories to our bank accounts? I'm going to tell you that your humble servant, Tabeyang Response, is one of the signatories. The AP, Dr. Samuel Sako, is one of the signatories. And the treasurer is one of the signatories. Online access to our bank accounts. AP Sako has access to online. Tabeyang Response has access to online. The treasurer has access to our online accounts. Mr. Blessingwa has access to our online bank accounts. Mr. Richard Tangu and the auditor, all of them have access to our online bank accounts, except one of them, the Bank of America. Online access to our payment platforms, mobile costs. Tabeyang Echu, Comrade Irene Gua, Comrade Willie Munji, the Treasurer, Comrade Eyembe Elango, Dr. Matt Tezok, and the Auditor. Braintree and PayPal platforms, Tabeyang Echu, Bless Ngwa, Comrade Richard Tangu, the Treasurer, Comrade Willie Munji, and the Auditor. The web portal is manned by Comrade Willie Munji. Our sub-accounts, we have Comrade Tabeyang Echu, the Treasurer, Ms. Kalej Bongo, Secretary Chris Anu, and John Egiawan. Other accounts, I also want to make you understand that there are accounts within the government by private departments that I have not been able to access. This started with the DOD, that because of my determination to stem that practice, I refused categorically to fund the DOD because I had no access to the account. You have accounts for Ambazonian for Ground Zero. You have accounts for the President's Corner. And recently, there is an ongoing fundraiser by the Secretary of State for communication towards the ABC TV. The question I am directing to you, Ambazonians, is it ethically appropriate for government departments to operate sub-accounts and private accounts? I have tried within my authority to stem this practice, but unfortunately, this has not been the case. I am going to move to the financial statements. The question has been, have you provided quarterly financial audits? The answer is no, but with a reason. As I said, that this was the period of conception. Whatever structures that we had were inexistent. So I had to take some time to put in a proper accounting system to make sure that things are being done appropriately. When I got into the department, most of what was done manually. So when I came in, I had to gather all the reports, the manual reports, and put in place an accounting system to enter the data into this system. But I also want to make it known that the delay also emanated from the delay for me to get reports from the presidency. I raised this issue with the Chief of Staff, and we had a very, very feisty exchange within the Cabinet Forum with the acting president, Dr. Samuel Sako. However, I also want to make it clear that at the end of July, the AP requested for a report for my trip to Buea. And a report was provided to the acting president as requested by myself, taking into account all the expenses that were incurred and the revenues that came in through that platform through June the 30th. I do also have screenshots of all the communications between myself, the AP, and the cabinet. These screenshots would be presented as needed. The president has never asked for a report and was never provided one. He asked for my trip to Buea report in July, and it was given to him. During some of these exchanges within the cabinet, it was Secretary Chris Anu who called me as a senior brother, which is something that I expected that if he had concerns, he should have done, and spoke to me privately and advised that the statements or the audit report, anytime that report will come out, should not be made public. Because if that report is made public, it would crumble the interim government. He later on posted that recommendation on the cabinet forum. I think his post solicited fierce resistance from one of the cabinet secretaries, Secretary Kalesh Bongo. You will see the screenshot attached. On January 22nd, 2019, I posted the expense report for the past 12 months in the cabinet forum for a proper review to all the cabinet secretaries before a complete report of the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows was to be forwarded to the auditor. Screenshots are attached. Up to this moment, none of the Treasury secretaries have given me a review of their statements. I am under the assumption then that they are very comfortable with the numbers in those reports that were sent to them. That expense report was also provided to the Restoration Council Chairman Alvis Kometa. I am going to move to the auditor. I think my presentation about the report clearly illustrates that there was no effort on my part to either refuse the presentation of reports. The delay was caused by multiple reasons. Prime among them, the delay from obtaining the reports from the presidency. Screenshots attached. And also, the difficulties that we had putting a proper system in place. I'm going to move with the other accusations of my refusal to provide an audit to the point where the auditor had to abandon the audit. I am going to make it categorically clear that that is not the truth. I received an engagement letter from the auditor, Dr. Metuge Ekomenzoge, on September 14, 2018, and I responded to him acknowledging and accepting the audit on September 20th, 2018. See my screenshots and the email exchanges between myself and Dr. Ekomenzoge. On October 15, 2018, I requested for additional time pending information from the treasurer. On October 28, see my attachment as a screenshot, accounting and finance policies were sent to the auditor, and access to our mobile cost platform was also provided to the auditor. On November 1st, 2018, access to bank accounts and other platforms were provided. On November 2nd, 2018, we agreed to do a Zoom conference call because of the difficulty for him to access the accounts, partly because of security reasons of opening those accounts overseas. On November 19, 2018, 2018, a reminder was sent to continue with the audit. November 21st, 2018, I requested for a video call to help him with login into the account and indicated to him that I was still waiting for a detailed report of expenditures from the presidency, and suggested to him that the audit should just be done for the whole year of the formation of the interim government. And that birthday was supposed to be November 22nd, 2018. November 28, 2018, a question of revenue was asked, and I responded to him that all our revenues platforms and indicated that the presidency was going to reconcile their own expenditure too at the same time. On December 1st, 2018, he requested a meeting and complained about his busy schedule and tiredness. Meanwhile, within this time, we held a meeting with Ethics Commission and the supposed Treasury Board Director, Richard Tangu, his team, and my Undersecretary. And it was recommended that I should complete the accounting entries through December 2018 before handing over the documents for complete auditing and to the new Director of Treasury. January 22nd, 2019, entire expense reports for all the departments was submitted to the auditor, and he asked for spreadsheets, and I requested his email. January 23rd, an email was sent to me. On January 28th, I received a reminder from him and a few things that needed clarifications. February 6, 2019, auditor presented an incomplete report to cabinet without any prior notification with me for any issues. I was not at this cabinet meeting given my very dire situation with what was going on in my village. February 12th, I sent him a complaint about presenting a report without notifying me. I also want to make it very clear that I later on learned from the Chief of Staff that the report was incomplete because I did not provide him with the revenue sources. But I also want to clarify that he was provided with all the revenue sources as of December 1, as of November 1st, 2018. Our online revenue platforms, Braintree, Mobile Cost, PayPal, and even the bank accounts were provided to him. I was under the assumption that he was going to glean all our revenue from those sources and was going to reconcile those revenues when I provide him with the income statement from the accounting software that we were using. But unfortunately, things did not go the way I had anticipated. There is ongoing conversation between myself and the auditor as authorized by the acting president. The auditor will be getting here today and we will commence the completion of the areas of the auditing that were not done. Fellow Ambazonians, I want to assure you that I was the one who set up the policies as far as this audit are concerned. I had clearly stipulated in the policy manual that we were going to have 2 biannual internal audits. At the end of the year, we were going to request for an external audit. Now, when I mean external audits, we might use some of the credible organizations that we have here to express an opinion on our entire accounting process. I think I also want to provide clarity for people to understand that when we talk of audits, that does not necessarily mean that there are issues with financial improprieties. An audit includes the entire system, how the internal controls and order structures within the organizations are functioning to meet the goals of that organization. So, my fellow comrades, fellow Ambazonians, Tabeyang HO in no way will resist the carrying out of a proper audit as requested by the interim government. I am ready to provide all the reports from the bank statements to all of the receipts and all the invoice requests that came to my office. I think it will be very easy for us to do these audits because we have very few platforms that will generate revenue. And most of our transfers for expenditures were done online, so there is an easy trail. So your secretary is ready for the audit, but I also want to express my reservations. I want to express my reservations and call for an external audit by the various arms of government, the Restoration Council and the interim and the cabinet itself. This will give Ambazonians the clarity and the peace of mind that their finances were properly managed. Tabeyang HO has nothing to hide. Tabeyang HO has no skeletons in the closets. Please rest assured that I would facilitate this process to its final ending. My trip to Buea. I think a lot has been said about my trip to Buea. And I also want to recall to you fellow Ambazonians that it was the President, A.P. Sako, and the Secretary of State for Communications, Secretary Chris Anu, who told you and our general public that my trip to Buea report will remain classified. It is not the responsibility of Tabeyang HO to provide detailed information of what happened to my trip to Buea. And I'm going to say that if I am given the responsibility, or if I am given the authority, or I would challenge Ambazonians to ask the acting president to order the Secretary of State for Economy and Finance to provide a detailed report of my trip to Buea, and that will be done within 24 hours. I can assure you that report is available. The mere fact that that report has not been made public does not in any way indicate that there is some foul play. But I'm going to give you, and I want to let you know, that 95% of my trip to Buea monies went through the Department of Homeland Security and the Presidency of the Republic. The onus is within these two entities to tell the Ambazonian people what was done with the funds for my trip to Buea. As far as the Secretary of State and the Department of Economy and Finance is concerned, I can confidently speak without fear that I can tell you where these monies and what departments this money was directed to. I would also like to assure you that 99% of these transfers for my trip to Buea were done online. So there is a trail. Fellow Ambazonians, do not belabor the point about the accountability for my trip to Buea. I am standing here to let you know that there is a proper report and a proper accounting for what was raised. I don't think it is a secret any longer for the total amount that was raised. The numbers have been making rounds within the various social media platforms. And I will strongly, before I close on this, ask the Ambazonian people to hold all the various secretaries of state and AP SACO to provide for a proper, or to approve, or to order the release of these records. I am going to move to the next concern that was raised, that I refuse to appear before the Ethics Commission. I know a lot of us will not understand what the Ethics Commission or the role of the Ethics Commission within the interim government. The Ethics Commission is an oversight organ of the interim government. This is an independent oversight organ within the interim government. But unfortunately, this oversight structure has morphed into an integral part of the cabinet, with the chair of the commission given the status of a Secretary of State. Commissioners actively participate in cabinet meetings, deliberations, and vote on decisions of the cabinet. I have consistently pointed out severally that this is wrong and unethical, because their active participation and opinions in decision-making of the government seriously compromises their neutrality in providing oversight. And besides, oversight is for the entire government and not the cabinet only. I never refuse meeting with Ethics Commission, even with the reservation about their neutrality. I had a joint meeting and a one-on-one meeting with the chair, Mr. Francis Shea, a fine and respectable gentleman, and he applauded my willingness and understanding of the issues. I was surprised that immediately after the Communications Secretary attacked my integrity, the Ethics Commission sent me a memo that I had not complied with the auditor and have not facilitated the transfer of documents to the Assistant Treasurer without even verifying with me if that was true. I requested Comrade Blesngwa, the supposed Assistant Treasurer, to come to Maryland and get him included in the accounts, but he did not show up. I am hereby strongly calling on the Ambazonian people to demand the immediate divorce of the Ethics Commission from the cabinet, so that they could act in the capacity of an independent oversight organ for the IG. I'm going to move on accountability and transparency. At the Department of Economy and Finance, we strongly believe that in accountability and transparency, but we also need to balance with the need to preserve the sensitive information that can undermine the entire interim government if care is not taken, once in the hands of erratic and irresponsible members of government and this struggle. We do not believe that accountability and transparency are the reasons why Ambazonians are not donating to the revolution as before. Our analysis points mostly to the reckless and divisive messages from both the IG and other frontline movements, the activists, surrogates, and the lack of resource on available fighting equipment on ground zero. So reading a financial statement or providing quarterly audits will not solve the problem that we face today. Accountability also includes results. When people don't see results for the hard-earned funds that they have raised, it is but proper for them to withhold those funds. Now, that does not mean those funds were not spent. That does not mean because a report was not provided that precipitated their withholding of these donations. The basic problems that we face is a lack of results on the ground. People need to see proper results. How many of our people even understand how to read a financial statement? If we were providing or producing results on the ground, the whole question about transparency and accountability would have been secondary. So I'm urging that the people of Ambazonia should hold all the cabinet secretaries accountable for the funds that were disbursed to them, for them to show results and what was done with that money. I am going to move to the ABC TV and the SCBC saga. Fellow Ambazonians, your humble servant, Tabeyang Echu, in no way refused paying the bills of Amba TV. As a matter of fact, I have made 3 payments of $16,600 and $9,425. As of December, payments have not been made, not because we refused to make the payments, but because we indicated that we were out of funds. And the treasurer had communications with the Secretary for Communications that at this time we were short of funds. And as soon as the necessary funds will be available, we will be able to regulate the past due amounts. I want to make you people understand that the spurious claim that Secretary of State for Economy and Finance, Tabeyang Echu, has shares in SCBC. Fellow Amberlanders, this cannot be far from the truth. There is nothing wrong in buying shares to promote an Amber business. But it is wrong for somebody to claim that I own shares in an entity without providing any proof. I am going to ask you people to hold the Secretary of Communications to task to provide incontrovertible evidence that I own shares on SCBC. Not only do I not own shares, I do not know of any shareholders in SCBC. Let me make it very clear. As I stated earlier, the ABC TV was an ill-conceived idea to disengage from SCBC and create another TV. The epic battle was control and authority between Mr. Derek Yu of SCBC as the director and the Communications Secretary, Secretary Chris Anu. It has nothing to do with private ownership. and anti-IG propaganda from SCBC. And the appearance of people like Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga. Power had shifted from South Africa to the US. And everybody knows that in politics, he who controls communications controls power. All other excuses were smoke screens and casualties of this power tussle. The very second payment of ABC bills, Secretary Chris Anu presented an invoice in the amount of $12,900, $9,425 for the satellite bill and other accessories, and $3,500 for salaries to staff of the TV station. I rejected the payment of the $3,500 and made it clear to Secretary Chris Anu that it was not about him, but it was unethical for me to even contemplate paying any salaries for anybody in the diaspora when we are having mothers, young children, wounded comrades, people in refugee camps that are desperately in need of support. That it was inappropriate, and in no circumstance was I going to make those payments. This is where the tussle between myself and Secretary Chris started about ABC TV. It has nothing to do about paying the satellite bills. As a matter of fact, when I indicated that there was no money to pay the satellite bills, AP Sako has access to the online accounts, and I told him that we do not have money. So I am surprised that if I was the one responsible, as it has unfortunately been cast, that I rejected to pay the TV bills because I wanted somehow to undermine ABC and have the station collapse. AP Sako has the authority to order for the immediate disbursement of those funds. I want Ambazonians to pose that question to AP Sako. If he had authorized me with the knowledge that there was money to pay the ABC TV bills, and Tabeyang Response refused to pay those bills. I think this is just a calculated attempt to cast my humble person as a villain, trying to bring down the prized asset of my colleague, Secretary of State Chris Anu, ABC TV. I want to let everyone know all my communications as far as this ABC TV is concerned, screenshots would be provided for everyone to see. I also want to go back and dispel the fraudulent claim that it was the leadership in jail who wanted to force a merger of SCBC and ABC. Fellow Southern Cameroonians, my fellow countrymen, it is really sad that we could stoop to this level to speak against people who cannot speak for themselves. Before even the incommunicado release of our leaders in jail, my undersecretary, Dr. Matt Tezo, had provided a template for us to seek ways to reduce the spending on ABC TV by looking for ways to consolidate or get a working arrangement with SCBC TV. I had a conversation with AP Sako in my office before his end of year speech in the presence of his assistant, Sebastian Bariku. And we agreed that there was a need for consolidation. He was going to talk to Secretary Chris Anu. But unfortunately, as we all know now, that did not happen. I want to make it very clear that I have told Secretary Chris on multiple times that I do not have a problem with the ABC TV running, but as a custodian of the hard-earned monies of Ambazonians, I have a responsibility to go through a scale of preference and the priorities of this government. If the department can raise money, I do not have a problem. The TV can continue till when we get to Boya. But I am not going to stand by and watch the pain and suffering of our people and our inability to even provide meager resources to the wounded. And we continue to make a payment of $10,000 for a TV station that can be done on Facebook. When we argued this within the department, we were told by some cabinet members that if the government cannot pay for these services, they were going to provide funding to pay for the TV. But I am very surprised today that none of them has come forward to foot the bills. Fellow Ambazonians, how frugal is this interim government to cough $120,000 a year to provide for TV services, something that Secretary Chris can do on Facebook. It has nothing to do with Secretary Chris, but it has something to do with the survival of this struggle. Even if we have the money, is this how we are going to spend the money recklessly? I am going to say, not under my watch. You can say Secretary Tabeyang Echu is stubborn, Secretary Tabeyang Echu is difficult, but when it comes to paying attention to your hard-earned dollars, rest assured, I would be able to give an account of what goes on with this your hard-earned money. I also want to make it very clear that this is not the first time that I have refused to make a payment within this interim government. I refused making payments to the same SCBC 3 times. If some of you were paying attention, SCBC was shut down 3 times. It was because your humble servant, who somehow now has an interest in SCBC, decided to shut it down because the payment were not clear. And because there was a delay in providing the contractual agreement between the owners of SCBC and the satellite company. Once that was done, and the AP Sako gave me the green light that he has that information, I continued paying SCBC bills until when we severed ties with SCBC, I think in the month of June 2018. I refused to pay money to DOD when they were still part of this interim government. I had refused to pay money to Secretary Kalesh Bongo. I have refused to send money to ASC. I have refused to even provide money to the AP. And this did not start in this interim government. While I was still the controller of Morris, my senior brother, Comrade Larry Ewancho, will tell you that Brado Tabeyang Echu refused to approve an invoice that could not be justified. Tumfoin Paul Herbert will tell you that Secretary Tabeyang Echu is not somebody that is going to play with the accounts. And I can tell you that even the Morris account, I can give you to the last dollar of what was done with that money, irrespective of all the lies that were peddled out here that money was raised and was not eaten. So I have a track record. It is not the first time. And all of these individuals, none of them has created a scene that is what, like a juvenile, about my refusal to provide funding for what was requested. And behold, I did not even refuse to make payments for the ABC bills. I simply advised that at this time, with the difficulties that we're facing, we would not be able to make those payments. The Secretary of State for Communications has decided to do a GoFundMe. I want Ambazonians to ask him. I provided him with a sub-account and a debit card. Is he directing those funds to that account for proper accounting and proper documentation? I guess the answer is no. What kind of a government is being run by individual secretaries taking upon themselves to carry out funding operations to their privately operated accounts? This is unacceptable, and this is what Secretary Tabeyang Echu is not going to stand for. Until I will leave this interim government, I am not going to be in support of a very flawed and unaccountable system within this interim government. I would also like to say something about the executive order from the presidency that was floated out a couple of days ago. Within that executive order, the acting president gave the impression that it was because of the excuses and delay caused by the Department of Economy and Finance, the audit was not done or has not been completed. But I want to point to the fact that what was missing in that executive order was to tell the public that 80% of the delay came from the office of the president, that the reports were not provided on time. And I had raised this issue in the cabinet. I have screenshots to show that. There is nothing new that I'm saying here that has not been said in the cabinet. I think a lot of us would be disappointed that I didn't come out swinging. But I think this struggle is bigger than whatever differences that we have. We are going to resolve these problems collectively. The interim government is a work in progress. And I'm going to appeal to those who feel they have been alienated, those who feel the interim government is not giving them the room to provide their services or to lead, to remain steadfast. Today it might be me. Tomorrow, it might be you in this position. I am also going to call on the interim government, the AP-SACO, to reach out to fellow compatriots and find a way for us to re-engage this community, for us to come back to the ideas of this struggle. We can disagree, but there is a need for us to stick together. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is the involvement of the leadership in jail since when they had access to communication. I have watched with dismay, and I am distraught to the lies and fabrications that have been peddled out to our people. It is unfortunate for the kind of language that has been directed towards His Excellency Sesoko Julius Ayoktabe and the leaders in jail. I have been accused of being backed and favored by the leadership in jail, and that gives me the audacity to disregard or do whatever I want within the interim government. Fellow Ambazonians, that is far from the truth. But if that be the case, that I have been backed and protected by the leadership in jail, I would welcome that every day. That university professors, lawyers, educators would see your humble servant, the servant that has been portrayed as an embezzler, the servant that has been portrayed as a corrupt swindler, and would still stand behind him. I would take that every day, because I believe these individuals, these seasoned professionals, are a better judge of character than whosoever want to smear on my integrity. The only reason that actually prompted His Excellency Sesoko Julius Ayoktabe to try to get involved with AP, Dr. Sako, in the first place, was because of the chaos that reigns in the struggle at this time. He cried the level of killings on the ground. He pleaded, how do we come together and speak with one voice and stand up as a people and fight together to stop the killing of our people on the ground? How do we force the international community, speaking as one people, to bring pressure and attention, focus on the pain and suffering of our people? That is the reason that the peace-loving unifier, Sesoko Julius Ayoktabe, decided to reach out to AP-SACO. And these conversations between himself and the other leadership in jail, and even Secretary Chris Anu, has been going on for about 4 to 6 weeks. There was no complaint. Suddenly, when it got to a critical issue of the APNC and the conference that was supposed to be organized by the cabinet, and a call for unity of purpose, and a stiff resistance from the Secretary of Communication, there was a problem. Unfortunately, or fortunately for His Excellency Sesoko Julius Ayoktabe, he did not vote in the final vote. He indicated that as a father, he was not going to take sides. But it is proper for the motion that was tabled by one of the other leaders to decide that each group should host their own conference be decided upon. And I think that is where the objection of Secretary Chris and AP Sako came up about the role of the cabinet. And I think it was pointed out that all the other arms of the cabinet were there. I think the number was said to be 5. But if you look at it technically, it's not even 5, because the leadership in jail are part of the cabinet. The ASC that was there is part of the cabinet. So basically you had 3 organs. I want to make it very clear, for people should dispel this false narrative that is building out here that the leadership in jail somehow have seated there and are trying to impose on AP Sako. I think it is the responsibility of AP Sako to come out and speak forcefully to say he was never imposed upon by the leadership in jail. It is his responsibility to come out and denounce the smear campaign towards the leadership in jail. That is leadership. Sitting quiet when your own president is being smeared, when the leaders in jail, after going through incommunicado detention for almost 10 months, to face the level of hostility that is coming from some of the surrogates, is sad. But let me make it very clear. Anybody out here would think that because of their communication, they will frame the leaders, would question the rationale of the leaders being behind bars and calling people out here with pen names and questioning them to reveal themselves. If any of these individuals think that this will land these leaders in solitary confinement, welcome to their world. They were in solitary confinement for 8 months, and they survived. You have leaders out here who use pen name. The AP himself has a pen name out here for a Secretary of State to go to the point of pointing that the leadership in jail are using pen names because they are trying to evade security. Meanwhile, we have people out here using pen names. It's a height of hypocrisy. It's a height of hypocrisy. It is unfair. It has to stop. How do you explain to Ambazonians that it is okay for you to take advice from jail, from people who probably might be compromised, but it is wrong for them to give advice? We should not take Ambazonians for granted. We are all smart people. If information is going to come from jail, whether in the form of advice or in the form of decision making, if it is compromised, it is compromised. So I would rather advise that we sever the communication and allow them to focus with their trial. We can do whatever we want to do with the revolution. No single individual is above this revolution. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I'm going to also inform you that the completed financial report and the details of that financial report have been provided to the Restoration Council, have been provided to the cabinet through the AP, and a copy has been provided to the country coordinators. I think these 2 or 3 structures have a responsibility to inform our various constituencies on the nature of these reports. I have not provided a report to the LGAs or the county administrators because for the past 12 months, we have not had a body like that. There are a lot of details within these reports that I think it would be incumbent upon these bodies to look carefully and detailedly into these reports and provide an informed decision to their various constituencies. With this, I'm going to say thank you. I am not going to engage in the back and forth. The next time you're going to see me would be to provide possible options on how we are going to rebuild this department. We currently have a lot of projects, but because of the toxic nature of the struggle at this time, we have decided to hold back because we believe if we roll out any of these projects, the toxicity that is currently characterizing the activities within this struggle, these projects are going to fall flat and we may not recover. So I am praying and pleading to you, you the forefathers, you the mothers, you the fathers, you young Ambazonians, to plead with your leaders for the need for unity in this struggle. If we are going to succeed, we can only succeed as a unit. As we can see, we have been stagnated and stranded in the middle of nowhere. We need the same energy that was brought upon by the leaders in this struggle in the early days back into this struggle to face the ferocious enemy that we have in front of us. It is not going to be done by sniping one another. It's not going to be done by hiding behind our keyboards. It's not going to be done by surrogacy. You can attack my person. But let me be very clear. I have the thick skin to resist. I have the knowledge to make sure that I can defend myself. But people should be aware that if you make unproven accusations that you cannot back up against my integrity, I reserve the right to seek for legal redress. Thank you. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia.